Sambamba sana.
And we are going live in the next few seconds. You can tell your friends we are live on YouTube, Kamdi Voices page. Hello and welcome from wherever you're watching us from. Tonight on Debate Night, we are here again to discuss a very interesting topic as we see maybe the way forward for us. We're here to discuss about COVID-19, and in the coming few weeks, this month, we're going to discuss everything relating to COVID-19. From wherever you're watching us, from wherever you're joining us, be it in Nairobi, be it in Kenya, be it across the globe or anywhere, feel free to join us. Feel free to share your contribution or your views about this topic as we debate it. We are here to discuss about the Kenyan government has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19 or in curbing the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know what is your take, but on the panel, I have a couple of people who are going to share their views about this topic, and maybe I'll allow them to introduce themselves. I'll start with Omondi, then we'll go to Stephen Omukoko, then Osore, then Wilda Nyagoha. Maybe you guys can quickly introduce yourself. Roslyn, if you're here, kindly. Omondi, Roslyn. Omondi, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Roslyn Sabion Omondi. I'm a law student at Mount Kenya University. Oh, I also add up as a sales manager for Omoka Digital Designs. And yeah, I'm here to join the debate.
Thank you so much. Last week, you really did an amazing work in trying to remind people the boy child has been forgotten in the modern world, and something has to be done for sure. Next online, I think Omukoko, kindly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Stephen Omukoko, and I'm happy to be here and talk about COVID and share my thoughts on how the government of Kenya has responded to the pandemic.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've always been joining us on this kind of discussion. Next in line, I think we have Wilda Nyagoha. Quickly introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Wilda Nyagoa, and I'm glad to be among this panel. And I'm going to oppose this motion. I really don't think the government has done enough concerning the pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think on the panel we also have Osore Sabion. You could kindly introduce yourself. I've also seen HP has joined us. I don't know who HP is or what HP means. Osore Sabion, kindly introduce yourself. Osore Sabion, if you can hear us. Oh, I don't know. Sabion, yeah, you're now on mute and you've unmuted your mic. Kindly introduce yourself.
Yes, Osore Sabion. That is my name.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now, without wasting time, this is a debate or a discussion for anyone who wants to contribute. Feel free to share in your views about the same. Our topic for today is the Kenyan government has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19. I don't know what you think about this motion. And without wasting time, I think I'll start with you, Wilda Nyagoha, maybe to tell us, what do you think about the steps that have been made by the Kenyan government as far as COVID-19 is concerned?
Okay, for me, I really think that the steps, the caution that our government took in curbing the spread of coronavirus, it wasn't the right step, because if you look at the kind of measures they put in place, it was the measures that they seem unrealistic and they only seem to favor themselves. because right now the Western and the Nyanza region are they are facing a curfew of 7 p.m. Now the question is, does it mean the virus spreads faster during the night and not during the day? Now, in recent days, the government had put a ban on hotels, churches, and social gatherings. Yet we have industries like EPZ, which is accommodating thousands of people just in under one floor. Those people were going to work during the pandemic. We have people who are working as conductors and drivers at the matatu station. They were working during the pandemic. Now, does it mean that it is only in the hotels and churches where the virus was spreading more than the other places? So the kind of measures our government took really seemed unrealistic to Kenyans, and that is why Kenyans have never taken the measures they are putting in place serious, because it is not favoring them and it's unrealistic. And keeping in mind the amount of money that has been swindled since the pandemic started till now, what does it shows? It shows that whatever the government is doing, it's just for their favors and only the few people to benefit from that. Kenyans are not benefiting from that. We have had funds and the donations coming into our countries from the developed countries, but the poor people, the citizens, have not benefited from that, because right now even a poor a poor Kenyan is still buying the mask, yet these masks were provided free by other nations. Right now, if you get this virus, if you go to the hospital, you're the one who will cater for everything, the oxygen, which is very expensive for a normal Kenyan. Yet people are supposed to be treated and taken care of free by the government because funds are there. We saw funds coming in the country, but nobody's talking about this. The only thing we are being told is that we are experiencing a third wave, a second wave, a fourth wave is coming. We're being warned, but we are not seeing the measures they are taking. So for me, I think that our government is really not making the correct measures in curbing this virus, and it is going to cost us.
Thank you so much. Those are your thoughts. I think the government has not done enough as far as COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. Rosalind Omondi, if you can, please switch on your video and maybe share with us your views. I don't know whether you are of the same or a similar opinion as Wilda Nyagoha when it comes to the fight against COVID-19. Maybe tell us what you think about how the government has handled COVID-19 so far.
Okay, for me, I believe that the government has tried playing its part to help us curb COVID-19. So it was up to us to see how we can help them do this. But okay, dealing with Kenyans, to be honest, it's hard. You see, you're given restrictions, you're told not to do this, but you're like, oh, at first we were not even taking COVID seriously. Personally, I wasn't. So I feel like, okay, the blame somehow it also falls on us on how we are handling things. We don't expect the government to be doing everything for us, you see. So you see, okay, COVID is not something that, okay, for us, it's not something we can say that it was planned to happen or something. Okay, though we have different views from different people. So let's just use an example of the rains, how it rains and we have people who are making umbrellas. They don't have to convince us to buy those umbrellas. You're the one who knows what impact it's going to cause on you when you're rained on and you don't have that umbrella. So they've already given you. So the government have just given us, like, let's say, an umbrella. They've told us, yes, there's COVID. If you do this, it's going to spread. And if you don't do this, things might get worse or things might get better. And for Kenyans, weird enough, we want to try out and do everything that if we do, things are going to get worse. Like right now, the situation in Nyanza, for real, trust me, the government is not to blame for anything on that. The people there are so ignorant, like 100% ignorant. I was there sometime last month, and trust me, people are really like, COVID is not real. Anyway, siku yako ya kukufa, quote unquote, siku yako ya kukufa ikifika utakufa tu, whether ina corona au kitu ingine, you see. So that's how ignorant we are. Then we tend to find someone else to blame, which in this case, all the time, it has to be the government. The government has tried. They've given us the measures. So it was up to us to see what we can do with the measures. So from my end, I believe the government has tried. They've not really done their part, but they've tried. And the biggest ball lied in our hands. And if we decided to throw it away, or we decided to hold it closer, and we made the spread rampant and stuff, it was all on the citizens to a point, because your health is your personal responsibility. As much as, yes, the government is obliged by the constitution to provide healthcare services, but if you really care for your life, then you should know what to do and what not to do from the measures that we've given by the government. So from my end, I believe the government has tried, and the larger part was lying with us citizens. Yes.
Thank you so much. I think you're bringing in a very interesting point of view, the aspect of citizens being irresponsible and not taking the guidelines seriously. Billy is here. I don't know whether you can join in to this point. You can switch on your video, maybe as you share in your thoughts about this topic. Do you think the Kenyan government has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19? Billy, see if you can hear me. Maybe you can switch on your video and unmute to share your thoughts about this topic. Billy is here. Okay, as we wait maybe for Billy is here, I'll jump into Omukoko Okoth. I think you probably have a first-hand experience with COVID-19. What do you think about the measures the Kenyan government has done in curbing this pandemic? Stephen Omukoko.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think for me, I'll start by disagreeing with Rosalind to a degree. When she said that people are 100% ignorant in Western Kenya and Nyanza, I would say, first of all, she has not been to all those places. But aside from that, it's more an issue of carelessness than ignorance, because people know what is supposed to be done. People know what has been said about the COVID pandemic, but they are careless. And what contributes to this carelessness is the hypocrisy that has been shown by the government, where at some stage, officials in the government were holding very big rallies and super spreaders, and then later they tell you that do not go to a bar, do not go to a hotel where you only meet as 15 or 20 people. And so that hypocrisy, for me, is a big thing. It communicates the message that the government wants to show it's doing something and not necessarily do something, which again is much worse than actually just telling people we are not doing anything and just survive on your own. So the government of Kenya has done has shown a degree of responsibility. It's followed suit. It did what other countries did. But to a great degree, it does not necessarily care about what happens, because when it brought in all the economic shutdown and all the challenges that came with that, it did not care to help the citizens, while other countries had the means to care for their citizens. And so our government was just blindly following everything that was done from other parts of the world. And the reason behind that is to show that they were doing something without the intention of actually doing something tangible and good. And that's why they continue with the campaigns, they continue with the rallies, political rallies, studies, and people are crowded in this. So in my view, there are situations where the government has done something, but to a large extent, it has been a show, which was not very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I think you'll highlight more on maybe your experience, first-hand experience with COVID-19, maybe, and how the government treated your issue. Thank you so much, Annette Esther. You've joined in. Billy is here. You can call in. You can actually switch on your video and mute. Maybe tell us your thoughts about this topic, whether you think the government has done enough in curbing, or whether it has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19. Maybe you can share in your thoughts about the same, Billy here. If you can, kindly switch on your video. Thank you so much. You had switched on your video.
Hello.
Billy is here. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
I'm trying to connect. I think I have a problem here. but let me just go ahead.
Okay.
Mine is, I'll just oppose the motion because I'm a businessman, and from every angle, I can say that the government has done very little in curbing COVID or helping us achieving our goal of being COVID-free as a country. Because from my background, like taxes have been hiked, and again, when it comes to managing it, everything, I think we have been getting wrong information from the government. You will hear some places are COVID free, but again, you find that there are people who are who are facing the challenge of COVID. Then in some areas, like there's no COVID, there's COVID, but they're saying that there's no COVID. So it's really, they have not been open when it comes to matters COVID.
Okay. I don't know if Billy have stopped talking. Okay. Thank you so much, Billy. You're a business person and you feel like the government has hiked taxation, especially to the business people. Thank you so much for your views. I'll probably jump in back to, I don't know whether Wilda Nyagoa is still in this call. Maybe I'll allow Christine Musando kindly to share in your views about this topic. Maybe you can switch on your video so that we can see you and others who are following us through our YouTube platform. Maybe you can share in your view about the measures the government has taken as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Madam Christine Musandu.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening.
Can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I've just got in. Sorry, I'm a little late. I just got in, but maybe my contribution would be okay. There is a lot they are doing, and there is a lot they are not doing. So you find like well, when we go to the counties, there's a lot of the
I don't know
health
whether it's
systems.
on my side. I can't get you.
I think I can hear her.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think maybe you've lost Christine Musandu. Wilda Nyagoha, you are the one who went first saying that the government has failed. There's something that was raised very important by Rosalind. Do you think by any chance Kenyan citizens have failed, or do you still insist there are more measures the government could have put in place to ensure that the spread of COVID-19 has not, become rampant within our territories?
Okay. Bearing in mind that Kenya is among the developing countries, and now COVID came to us, is something that we never expected, and we had not planned enough for it. But as blessed as we are as a nation, immediately COVID came, there were funds coming to us, donations coming to us. Loans were being taken in the name of curbing coronavirus. How I wish the government could have used these funds to buy more oxygen cylinders, to create more space in these public hospitals, to educate the public on, right now is like when a kid sees fire, you have to tell a kid first, what people do is tell achana na moto. No, that is not the best approach. You have to tell the kid to why mbona nafaa aachane na moto and mbona moto ni mbaya. That is the criteria that our government could have used. They could have told Kenyans, how heavy is this coronavirus? Why are we fighting this coronavirus? And why are we, why they could have made me as a normal Kenyan will they understand why are they telling me to sit at home? Why are they telling me to social distance? Why are they telling me to wear a mask? Because we are not stupid that you just shika mask va. Why? Bona? Definitely I will not. You know how Africans are, how Kenyans are groomed to be. But if they could have created more awareness to the public about this coronavirus, things could have gotten better. Now, bearing in mind that the largest portion of our population, there are people who are hand to mouth. People are not saving. People are working. Yes, people are working. A small percentage is working, while some are depending on others, their parents or their guidance. But the thing is, a great percentage of Kenyans, they go with hand to mouth. People are not saving. Now, I believe the criteria they use is like being COVID positive. It was like it is you who brought that virus into you. People went into the hospital. People are being neglected. If you don't have cash, you're being neglected. But those who had cash, yeah, they were treated and they were okay. There were more deaths, more deaths, more deaths. Not because the virus was that effective, not because the virus was that contagious, but it was the negligence of our government, the greediness of our government. Whatever the government saw is a, a great pathway to more donations and getting more loans, rather than seeing that they should have created just a conducive environment. If they could have just bought enough oxygen cylinders and enough beds in hospitals and taking care of the patients, it could have been more good than only thinking about themselves. Even mask, going to a hospital without a mask, you're not given a mask. Yet masks were even created locally by Kenyans in order to be given to people. There was a time, the government always takes Kenyans for fools. Why? Because most Kenyans are not educative. Plus, as Kenyans, we are so lazy to research and go to the internet or the social media and look at how things are going, how figures are increasing or decreasing, how funds are being used. We don't do a follow-up. And they have taken that as our weakness. Why am I saying so? There was a time before when schools were about to reopen after the virus had been stabilized. There was some the masks were being created locally in our local industry, and the mask was said to at least every Kenyan student or every Kenyan pupil to have at least two to be given for free. But the question is, when we ask our younger sisters and brothers, did they receive this mask? No. Yet we saw money was given, and there was some company who were given tenders for this. So I want us to open our eyes and not just say that the government is doing something. The government is using our weakness to their advantage, and because as Kenyans we always love going by rumors, we always love going by what our politicians say and go with. That is why we are really losing it big.
Thank you so much, Wilda. You still insist the government has not done enough or is not doing enough to ensure it caps the spread of COVID-19. Thank you so much. I can see Ohisa Oduho, who has joined us. Thank you so much. Feel welcome. In case you want to share in your contribution, I kindly urge you to switch on your video to all the panelists. Today, if you're joining us right now on YouTube, we are discussing the motion the Kenyan government has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19. And the month of July, we're going to tackle everything dealing with COVID-19 and see some of the steps, measures the government has taken in trying to fight the spread and the aftermath or the effects of COVID-19 to the Kenyans and their businesses and their livelihood. If in case Oduho, you're ready, you can switch on your video, maybe to share your thoughts or your views about this motion. Ohisa, Oduho, if you can hear me. Thank you so much. Kindly unmute and share your thoughts about the motion.
Yes, much obliged, Brother Were. I believe this discourse highlights.
Just your camera. We only sing. Okay, thank
yes, can you see me now? Yeah, I believe that is okay. Now, I believe this discourse highlights a very important problem, and I believe this is one that was clearly highlighted by the expose done by John Alan Namu, quoted as the COVID millionaires. And it showed firsthand how the government entities that were responsible for the procurement and distribution of vital PPEs were in fact part and parcel of the corruption of these PPEs that would lead, therefore, to these vital PPEs, lead to shortages within hospitals. And as such, we find that doctors would move forward to organize strikes, and you would think that the COVID pandemic would be a most crucial crisis in which doctors would overlook such incidences in which government fails to uphold their end of the bargain, in which doctors are, in this instance, at the front line. They are the frontline soldiers in the fight against this pandemic. However, the PPEs are mostly intended for them. And so, therefore, to say that indeed the government has done its part in curbing the COVID-19 pandemic is quite fallacious, because the results say otherwise. I mean, if anyone has been following what has been happening throughout this period, one would realize that, you see, majority of resources, material resources that were dedicated to the reduction of cases, to just generally handling the problem, have been diverted towards private pockets. Okay, and this level of corruption is something that is not new. However, this pandemic has presented new opportunities for individuals within government to prove that indeed within even times of crisis, there are those individuals who really do not care about the well-being of the people rather than their own well-being. All right, and as such, so I believe a disassociation of government, of the responsibilities of government in this pandemic, and the individuals who run government is important for this discourse, because in this instance, it is in the ideal sense that government should indeed be at the forefront of solving such problems, and especially such a pandemic which is global, and it is bringing even the world's most developed countries to their knees. Okay, and as such, even in the process of procuring vaccines that are vital towards the end of this pandemic, because you see, without the vaccines, there is no foreseeable end to this pandemic, and as such, we see that the process of procuring the said vaccines, you see, also imbued with multitudes of challenges. Okay, so at the end of the day, there is the fact that we are unable, as public citizenry, as ordinary citizenry, procurement procedures. Okay, and as such, you see, I mean, in all honesty, it further highlights, even at the global level, the fact that there are greater inefficiencies towards handling of such crises. Okay, in essence, the world was generally unprepared. Okay, so even to merely give benefit of the doubt to African governments that seem, or just generally developing governments of developing countries that come off immediately as being generally unprepared for the pandemic. You see, there is a benefit of the doubt in which that, you see, the last time such a pandemic happened was, almost 100 years. Okay, however, it goes on to highlight the fact that there are greater structural misalignments, okay, that further contribute to the exacerbation of the situation to the point that it works, one, in the fact that government wasn't prepared, and that additionally, the corruption that is happening in government is further exacerbating the situation. And as such, as much as the government you can say that the government is doing its best in the situation, surely they could have been doing much, much better.
Thank you so much. The government could have done much, much better. Your team, let me say your team, because you've just gone immediately after Wilda Nyagoha, who is saying the government has not done enough. Wilda is always ready to challenge anything done by the government. There's something that was raised by Rosalind Omondi. I want to bring her on board, Rosalind Omondi Sabion. She mentioned something to do with this pandemic being a collective responsibility of every citizen. And in most cases, not any country, not any government will ever be fully prepared for any given pandemic that occurs, because these are natural events that you don't prepare for. Maybe even before I jump into Rosalind, let me allow Christine Musando to share her views. Maybe don't you think also the citizens have failed as far as COVID-19?
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Good evening. Okay, thank you, Paul. I had a network issue. Now, for me, I would stand that they have not done enough. They have done, it would be wrong for me to categorically say they have not done anything, but I feel they have not done enough, especially when it comes to the health systems, and basically within the cities and the rural counties and sub-counties. In fact, the problem is even bigger in the rural sub-counties and counties, because you find that if you're in a sub-county like where I come from, you find that if you got sick or you need oxygen, you cannot reach Kisumu, you cannot reach Siaya. What happens to you? You probably would not even reach the hospital. Even in the sub-counties, they are poorly maybe stocked. So I feel they should they should just do enough, do something. There is a weak string somewhere. And this is very dangerous, because for me, like now, the past week, I've been losing even relatives to this thing. This thing is there. It's now in Kisumu, it's in Western, so we cannot pretend to only focus in the city. What are our leaders doing in the counties? What are they doing to support their people, to improve the health systems? You know, when you hear something like a bed is lacking, is it the cost of the bed that is expensive or what? If you hear some hospital they don't have beds, what is it that these beds are expensive, or what is it? You see? So basically, for me, I feel they've not done enough, and they can still do something. They have the time to do it and save the citizens.
Thank you so much. You agree that the government has done something, but the government can do more and more to ensure it cautions citizens.
Exactly. Yeah, they really need to do more in terms of testings. Yeah, they're not doing enough testing. Even as it is now, the vaccines are not enough. Mm-hmm. Remember, we are a population of 40 million. But if you look at the vaccines that are there, they are not enough for the population. If everyone was to run for them, you see.
But somebody might ask,
there's a lot that needs to be.
Allow me to ask, do you think other countries have enough vaccine? If we now say the government has not done enough, and we compare ourselves to the steps other countries have made as far as this fight is concerned, do you think there's a country that has enough vaccine for its citizens?
I can, okay. Okay, there are some, yes. There are some who have, like Israel, and they have it, and they have managed to contain the problem just because they have vaccinated their population. You see, that's what I'm talking about. When you come to look at a country like where it started, where it all started, China, with that huge population, but they've managed to contain it.
Okay, thank you so much, Kristen Musando. I think I'll allow Omondi Rosalind Sabion to share in her views. I think Rosalind, you've heard about other people comparing Kenya to China as far as
Thank you.
of COVID-19 is concerned. They have mentioned Israel, and they've also talked about the embezzlement of funds, among other issues that are reasons enough for Kenya not doing it, or the Kenyan government not doing enough. And you have stated earlier on that you believe this is a collective responsibility and Kenyans are failing big time. I don't know if you have been convinced now that the government still has the ledger, or rather the bigger burden to ensure that everything is well and we are safe as a nation.
Okay, not really. I'm not really convinced because, to be honest, okay, everything that's happening is really because of what we Kenyans perceived at first, you see. So as much as our government also let's say they were also lenient for some time. But when they started giving us instructions and directives on what to do, what did we do as Kenyans? We were like, this is just another way for them to get money. This is just another way for them to continue their corruption practices, you see. So, at times it's so hard for the government to even deal with us as citizens because we always believe that everything that they're doing is for their own good. We're always like, they really don't care about us, it's ever about them. And so we don't take anything they tell us seriously. So as much as we're trying to throw shade to the government and we're blaming them for everything, trust me, we are contributing to 90% of what is happening. Then comparing ourselves with countries like China, even US. Okay, let's look at when COVID came. Even the most superior countries, the most developed countries with good governing systems were affected. So Kenya is not yet there. We are still a developing country. Had COVID really been so bad, trust me, if our government didn't do anything, as let's say, like Wilder is trying to put it, like the government didn't do anything, the government didn't tell us enough. And okay, and she was also contradicting herself by saying we Kenyans ignore when we tend to, the things that we even follow up on social media. Let me just use like something that just happened recently. We had the Safari rally. Trust me, in like even 2 weeks before the event, it's like it was all over. Everyone knew, even the Mamboga knew that people were going to Naivasha. But when COVID came, there were people who were just acting like, I've not had something like that, and that thing is not serious. It's just in European countries. It cannot affect Africans. Africans, we are strong. Africans, we are strong. Then when it hits us, we are like, the government. Where did your strength go to? When you're saying you're strong enough to fight the disease, then when it comes, you're like, the government didn't protect us. Do we expect the government to be like watching every part of our lives? That will be like infringing our right to privacy. Do you expect the government to be walking with you everywhere, telling you, Rosie, you're not having your mask on, please put it on. You're in a crowded place. It's us Kenyans who still go against the rules that the government are giving. And we are even giving, we are giving COVID an upper hand in all this. Because let's say you go to a matatu, it's full, but you still want to squeeze yourself there because you don't have time to wait, and you're like, the COVID will just come and go. Then you're going to blame the government that the government did not tell us enough what we should and what we should not do. Yet we were told, but we just ignore. We know what we are not supposed to do. We know what we're supposed to do, but we're still ignoring. Then we're going to, because we know that that's the only, in fact, when you're complaining and you involve the government, weirdly, many people will agree with you because they'll be like, yes, true, this government has really failed us. So I'm like, okay, what type of communication do we really want from the government? Because we were given, okay, we even had these, what are they called? The programs where we're having public awareness about COVID in the TVs, in the radios, everywhere, in the internet. COVID was even trending for those of us who only get news via Twitter. COVID was trending, but we were still like, anyway, it's not a big deal. It's not, and trust me, if there are people, unless someone close to you has been affected by COVID, you're still like, COVID is not real. I was recently talking to a friend and she was like, so far, I really don't know anyone who has died of COVID. So this thing is still a scam. Today, trust me, as much as we are in July, COVID has already celebrated a 1-year anniversary. We are in July, and there are people who are still skeptic about it. They're like, COVID is not here. So far, I don't know anyone who has died. So unless we're waiting for it to happen to us, you want the experience. That's when you will believe that the government was indeed telling us the truth. You see, so that's to a percentage, yes, I'm still blaming us. As much as the government was obliged to give us awareness on everything that was happening, I'm still blaming us. Had we listened, and then we can't just wake up and start comparing ourselves to countries like China, and we're like, our government could have done like what the China government did. Did you see how the citizens were behaving? The citizens were heeding to the rules that were being given by the government. But for us, we are always wrong. We just want to fight the government all the time. Whether they're telling us the right or the wrong thing, we just want to fight. As long as we are fighting, and it's like we are always right. The government is always wrong. The government is always on the wrong side. And that's where we're getting it all wrong. So for me, I still stand that the government has tried, and we can't really compare ourselves to countries like China and Israel, because compare the conduct of citizens there and the conduct of citizens here. As much as Kenya is a developing country, trust me, it gets to a point we need to take responsibility for our own lives. It's not always going to be the government, and we don't have to wait for someone close to us to pass on from COVID, or to contain the disease, or to contract the disease, then that's when we'll start believing that COVID is real, COVID is killing people, and our government is doing nothing about it. What else do we want the government to do, to be honest? If what they're telling us to do, we are not doing, then we still blame them for what we are not doing. We are blaming the government actually for what we are not doing. We are told to, okay, as much as we're even trying to throw the blame to the government that they're organizing rallies and stuff. Trust me, I doubt if there's any place that the government has ever come and told you that, Mr. Were, stand from your chair and go join that meeting. If you don't, you're going to die. If you don't, it's always us. You go there, you're going there. This is a gathering, and COVID is around, but you're like, anyways, let me go and see my leader. I've never seen him or something. You're just going there. Then you come back and start saying that it's the politicians, it's the government that brought COVID to this place. It's you as an individual who went there, who, in fact, some people even pay transport to get there and join the rallies and participate, and you even participate in those rallies without your masks. Then you have your masks on and you're having them on your chin, or some are even just carrying them on the pockets. You contract COVID. Who are you going to blame? The government. So was the government supposed to tell you that, well, this is a public meeting? Please, if you're coming here, come with your mask and make sure you observe social distancing where you will be. You as an individual, you are a reasonable person and you know what's been happening, but you're still going there. Then you're going to blame the government when it starts hitting you negatively. So as much as we're saying the government has not done much, the government has tried. It's us, the citizens, who have not done much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roslyn. It is we who have not done much. We are not supporting our government on this fight. Stephen Omukoko, if you are still here, maybe you can tell us your experience, your first-hand experience with COVID-19. I think maybe you can share with us. It was already on the media, I think, last year. You contracted COVID-19. Maybe you can tell us your journey on how the government handled the case or handled you, and what you think, of course, about this motion, if the government has done well in curbing the spread of COVID-19. Omukoko.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think those who have spoken before me have made very passionate speeches. I'll start with sharing my journey. I think at the time I had COVID, we were told that every patient in Kenya who had COVID required 1 million shillings from the government to be treated. And so we were only 17 by the time I tested positive, and that will be 17 million. Right now, the cases have grown so much. And the question that I will ask today, do they still need 1 million for every patient? Which means that they were not realistic in the first place and that money was being looted. And I don't think that is enough for government to do. While Rosalind has pointed out that we have not done enough, and I will agree with her completely, I think she loses touch with the reality that a person who is poor at home cannot be told to stay home and die of hunger. They'll still go to look for food. A boda who has no means, as Wilda mentioned, from hand to mouth, you have to survive. And these are people fighting for survival. You cannot expect a people fighting for survival, a people fighting for basic needs, to behave in an orderly fashion, because this is a question of survival. When you run away from danger, you don't run with order, you run with speed. And that is precisely what is happening in Kenya. And what I saw in the hospital at Magadi was that we have all these masks coming from Jackma. They do not get to the doctors. And we had few cases then. There were only 17 cases. I think the mask is called KN95, if I'm not wrong, though I'm not sure. All those masks were being worn up by the big people in the country, not by the frontline workers. And so most of these nurses and doctors ended up getting COVID and then dying. And so if you're killing the people who have the capacity to help you in such situations, how then are you going to help them? Some of them had very poor masks, very bad masks. They were just wearing them for the sake of it. And that was not helpful at all. We have said, let us not compare Kenya to other countries that are developed, but let us look at our neighbor, Rwanda, are not very far away from here. They are part of the East African community. They locked down the economy, but they provided food for the people. They came up with measures that were realistic, measures that did not just ignore the person who is hurting at the bottom of the economic scale. And I think we also have to be in touch with the fact that there is no country in the world that has survived COVID on the pure goodwill of the citizens. Government has a role to play. We will not expect that citizens, people don't like masks, and so in situations where you are enforcing something unpopular, you have to do much more than is expected. And that is why many countries have felt the test of tyranny, where countries were told, we either stay at home, we have curfew, we have all this, and such measures had to be taken because this is something out of the ordinary. And if you want to treat it ordinarily, as the cabinet secretary said, and I think that's one of the few things that they did well, to say that if we treat this ordinarily, then it will treat us in an extraordinary way, or I can't really quote what is said precisely. And so I think, in a way, government has done a bit, but there's much more they could have done. And if we can compare what they have done to what Rwanda has done, because we can see Rwanda has really dealt with the disease much better than we have. And weirdly, even Uganda is doing significantly better than Kenya has done with matters of COVID. And so I think there was a lot that needed to be done, helping the frontline workers, nurses and doctors for this matter, giving them the required equipment, because that will help them. And I thought that will have been very helpful. And so my view is that government has done something, but not enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rosalie, I don't know whether you want to counter that, or I give a different speaker an opportunity to share his or her views about this whole discussion. Maybe. Thank you so much, Ohisa. I can see you're back on this call. Ohisa, Rosaline, you have a counter on what Stephen has said?
Yes, I do. Okay, on what she's saying about, let's talk about Rwanda and Uganda. You know, we are talking about what we're being told by the news and what we see on the news and the statistics they're giving. Please speak to someone from the ground. I have a friend in Uganda, and trust me, the situation is not as good, or it's not that contained as it really looks. Even the Ugandan government is really struggling to contain the disease. So let's stop this thing of comparing ourselves with the other countries unless you've been there physically and you've seen what's happening. Things on the ground are different. Things on the ground are different. The statistics they're giving, they're showing us what they want us to see, not what's really happening. So let's not just blame our government, everything that they're doing everything wrong. They're not doing what the Rwandan government is doing. They're not doing what the Ugandan government is doing. We are not there physically. Trust me, talk to someone who is there physically and they'll tell you what's really happening. The statistics that we are getting are not really what's happening there. We're being told what they want us to see, not what's really happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. They're telling us what they want us to see, but it's not what is actually happening on ground. Ohisa Oduho, I'll also give you another 2 minutes extra, maybe to tell us what is enough for you when it comes to the fight against COVID, and how practical is it? You claim, your team claims the government. How many steps should we do as a government, speaking, for example, as part of this country, and how practical is it for a country to be able to implement some of the things your team thinks the government should do? Ohisa? Ohisa, kindly unmute.
Forgive me. Yeah, I'm saying that the challenges that government is facing are quite stark, and to speak against them would be outright madness. However, the premise that I'm laying henceforth is as follows. Okay, government has done its part. However, due to the grand corruption that has been happening during this period, okay, the effects have been much limited to what they could actually have been. Okay, much more lives, therefore, could have been saved than those that have already been saved. Okay, and as such, therefore, it is not outright, trying to blame government for its failure, because at the same time, I mean, I must acknowledge clearly, indeed, the fact that there is great failure on the part of the citizenry in this fight. Okay, and you see, it is not a matter of pointing the finger to place blame on who is responsible for the situation as it may be. All right. It is a matter of clearly highlighting the fact that this pandemic, okay, has brought forth structural misalignments that have been in existence before COVID, okay, and that they have been brought to light in this period to expose the fact that universal health as a goal that is that the government is striving to achieve, okay, there is still a lot to be done before the government can actively speak about promoting universal healthcare. All right, and in this matter of COVID, okay, we find that it is without a doubt, okay, that much more could have been done, and the blame on government that is being played here, that is being placed henceforth, that much more could have been done, is on the failure of the representatives to bring to account, yeah, those who have been misappropriating funds that have been dedicated towards solving this problem, okay, and as such, therefore, the conversation is not a static conversation. And as such, therefore, it is not so there is enough blame that can be placed on government and also on the citizenry. So at the end of the day, who truly is to blame? It is not a blame game here. It is a matter of highlighting the greater problems that the pandemic has highlighted and how, therefore, they can be solved even post-pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oduo, for your insights. I'll go back to Christine Musando. You can actually switch on your video, maybe highlight on the aspect of probably businesses and how maybe the government, as you say, it has not done better. What are some of the aspects when it comes to businesses and supporting existing businesses? What the government could have done maybe better to ensure that things have been improved? Christine Musando, if you can hear us, kindly you can unmute and probably switch on your video. Christine Musandu. Then let me go to Wilda Nyagoha. I think you are still on the call. Wilda, maybe you can tell us what you think now that you're a student, what you think the government could have done to caution, for example, students and improve the things happening in school to ensure that they can do their things as expected and live probably not necessarily normally, but in a way that things can be better for them as far as learning is concerned.
Okay, I'll start by the recent case where the government received quite a number of vaccines, and strategically, before the vaccines came, whatever they were saying is that the first-hand people, like the teachers, doctors, were the people who were first to receive this vaccine. But as we look the way things are going, it is kind of not really what is happening in the ground. Why am I saying so? If I've interacted with a number of high school teachers, university lecturers, and if you ask them, a good number they have not yet received the vaccine doses. Why? Because there are some people they prioritize the politicians receiving this vaccine than the people who are at high risk of getting this virus. So how I wish they could have gone with the state strategy where the people who are who are being who are being seen as the people to the people who are going to who have high risk of getting this virus could have received it first. The other thing is that as the way the virus came as an emergency to the world, what Kenya could have done with the funds and the donations, they could have created, they could have bought more oxygen cylinders, they could have employed more doctors, nurses, and also could have created more space in the hospital so that when they identify a victim, he or she is taken to a safe place where his or her cure is guaranteed. But what has the government done? The government has just told us we should maintain social distance, we should wear mask or whatever, but they have not created a space in case there is an emergency in our university, in case there is an emergency up to the sub-county level. Where does this victim run to? That is the question. Where does this lecturer run to? So that is what the government should have prioritized first, so that we could have, I as Wilda could have said at least they have done something. Because for me right now, they have done very little. Yet whatever the resources they had in their hands was so many that even Uganda and Tanzania or even Rwanda, they had no privilege of getting such kind of donations of funds. So they have just squandered everything.
Thank you so much. You say whatever the government has done is a drop in the ocean. Omondi, Roslyn, probably what do you think is a reminder for you to Kenyans now that you have categorically stated the government has tried the level best and maybe Kenyans have failed the government in this fight? What is your final thoughts on this conversation and a reminder maybe to Kenyans as far as the fight on COVID-19 is concerned, and maybe in case any other pandemic strikes a country, and the duty of citizens on any pandemic or any fight against such kind of cases?
Okay, first off, we should not normalize blaming the government for everything that's happening to us. To be honest, we have a collective responsibility, because as much as we're blaming the government, we're forgetting that we are also the government. We are also the government. So those who we are blaming, those are just people we elected. They're in those positions because of us. See, so we are still part of that government that we're trying to throw the blame on. So as Kenyans, we should really strive to care, to take responsibility of our own lives, as much as the government also plays a part in that, but it's up to us to take care of ourselves. Okay, so in let's say another pandemic just arises, or if something, okay, God forbid, if another pandemic was to strike us anytime soon, we should put ourselves first before we start waiting for aids. You know, another thing is that we're always waiting for someone to help us out, even if we are in a position to help ourselves out, and that's where we always go wrong. And I believe that that's a part where the government also messes up at times. That's the people we've elected to be in the government to govern us, that is. So we should not always be waiting for someone to come and start giving us a helping hand, and then that's the time we want to stand up. You just can't be seated and you're like going to that room is far, and you're still seated. Unless you make a step, that's the only time you'll see how far it is or how close it can be. So if we're always sitting there waiting for the government to come and tell us what we are really supposed to do, yet we have the means. We are even seeing, okay, for those of us who are privileged to have smartphones and to be able to access internet, we see what's really happening. We know that if you do this is going to spread. If we do this pandemic is going to hit us differently. But we're still sitting there waiting for, let's hear what the government has to say first. You should take care of yourself. Like, your life is your own responsibility. It is yours. It's not like, okay, you don't live like, we don't have Derek Were, they, like, unless those who have identical twins, but they still live different lives, you see. But so you still have to take responsibility of your own life. You don't have to wait for someone to come and tell you what you're supposed to do with your life. So
Thank you so much.
self-responsibility.
Thank you so much. Maybe for the interest of time, I'll allow you to end at that. Stephen Mkoko, in less than a minute, maybe your final thoughts on this debate or on this motion. What do you think?
Thank you. I'll be very quick. First of all, everyone has a role to play in every situation that we find ourselves in life. And in this pandemic, we have a situation where the government has its role and the citizens have their role. And so the question is not, do we blame the government or do we blame the citizen? The question today is, has government done enough, and have citizens done enough? And my conclusion is that we have both failed as a country, as a people, and as a government. And the most important thing is now to rethink about that and see what we can do going forward so that we can actually mitigate future pandemics, but also deal with COVID, because it's far from over. We're still here with it, and we should focus on what we can do now and here to ensure that the future looks much brighter than it appears today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen Omukoko. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our discussion. I know most of you like us to continue, but we can't go past now. It has been an amazing discussion trying to see what the government has done. What is your thoughts about the government, doing its work in ensuring that it has curbed the spread of COVID-19? Thank you so much. I've been your host, Derek Were, and I'm hoping we are seeing you next week for a bigger and better discussion as far as COVID-19 is concerned. As I've mentioned earlier, this month, we're going to highlight more on COVID-19. Thank you so much. Until next time, it's a goodbye and have a good night.